The council chamber stretched high above the delegates, its walls made of crystal that showed the stars beyond. Representatives from 49 different species sat in their designated sections, each one adapted to their specific needs. Some breathed different air. Others needed different gravity. But today, they all focused on the same problem. On the central platform, a hologram displayed a massive ship drifting through space. The vessel looked ancient and broken. Parts of its hull were patched with mismatched metals. Several sections showed no lights at all. This was the last hope, home to the final 3 million members of the Kiarni race. Ambassador Torvin of the Vraxian Empire stood to speak. His scaled skin gleamed red under the chamber lights. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 2,000 years of history. The Kiarni carry death inside them, he said. Our ancestors watched entire worlds burn because of their fungal plague. Billions died. We cannot allow this threat near any settled world. Captain Elena Vasquez sat in the human section, her hands gripped tight on her chair's armrests. She had read the reports about the Kiarni. Yes, they carried a symbiotic fungus in their bodies. Yes, that fungus had once spread across Vrassian space long ago. But the reports also showed something else. The Kiarni had lived peacefully with their symbiote for thousands of years before, and after that incident, the Keltorian delegate spoke next, her crystalline form chiming softly. We sympathize with their situation. Truly, we do. But we have 17 billion citizens across all worlds. We cannot risk contamination. Our resources are already stretched thin. One by one, the excuses came. The Othmari Protectorate, famous for their charity missions, cited quarantine concerns. The Manthrax Collective claimed incompatible biology. The Selenar Union worried about economic impact. Each powerful civilization found a reason to turn away. Elena watched the hologram of the last hope. Somewhere on that dying ship, 3 million people waited for an answer. 3 million mothers and fathers, children and elders, all hoping someone would show mercy. Dr. Marcus Chun, the human ambassador, sat beside her. His face remained calm, but Elena knew him well enough to see the anger in his eyes. He leaned close and whispered, "They're going to let them die." "We can't let that happen," Elena whispered back. The vote came quickly. 47 species voted to deny the Kiarni asylum. 2 abstained, the humans and a young Ixari ambassador who looked barely old enough to hold her position. The Ixari had no real power in the council. Their abstention meant nothing, but humanity was different. They were new to galactic politics, only joining the council 30 years ago. They had colonies, resources, and most importantly, they had a choice. Ambassador Chun stood up. The chamber grew quiet. When humans spoke, the older species usually found it amusing. These young creatures with their strange ideas about equality and rights. "Esteemed members of the council," Chun began, his voice steady. "I have heard your concerns. I have listened to your fears. But I have also heard what you have not said. You speak of risk, but you mean fear. You speak of resources, but you mean convenience. You speak of protocol, but you mean comfort." Torvin hissed. "Do not lecture us, human. Your species has existed for mere moments in galactic time. You know nothing of the dangers we face." "You're right," Chun said. "We are young. We have much to learn. But we remember our own history. We remember when refugees fled across our oceans, seeking safety. We remember when others turned them away. We remember the cost of choosing fear over compassion." He pressed a button on his console. The hologram changed to show Kepler 442b, a blue and green world orbiting a distant star. Humanity offers sanctuary to the Kiarni people. We will welcome them to our colony world. We will help them build a new home. And we will take full responsibility for any consequences. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in multiple languages. Some argued that humanity had no authority to make such a decision. Others warned of the dangers. A few simply laughed at human foolishness. Elena felt her heart racing. Chen had just committed humanity to a path that could change everything. No other species had dared to challenge the Council's decision in decades. When the chaos finally settled, Torvin's voice cut through. If you do this, humanity will stand alone. The Council will impose sanctions. Your trade agreements will be suspended. Your diplomatic status will be reconsidered. We will not support you when this decision destroys you. Chen met the Vraxian's gaze without flinching. Then we will stand alone. But we will stand on the right side of history. The session ended in confusion and anger. As the delegates filed out, Elena approached Chen. Sir, do you realize what you've just done? The Solar Assembly hasn't even voted on this. You've committed humanity without authorization. Chen nodded slowly. I know. I'll face the tribunal when we get back to Earth. They might strip me of my position. They might even charge me with overstepping my authority. But Elena, I saw those images from the Last Hope. I saw children huddled in corridors because the life support systems are failing. I saw families rationing their final food supplies. I couldn't wait for committees and votes while people died. Elena looked out the crystal walls at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kiarni waited in the darkness, unaware that one species had finally said yes. What do you need me to do? She asked. I need you to lead the rescue mission, Chen said. Take the Indomitable Will and whatever ships volunteer to join you. Find the Last Hope and bring them home. Home, Elena repeated. They don't even know where Kepler 442b is yet. Chen smiled sadly. Then I suppose it's time we showed them. Across the chamber, the young Ixari ambassador approached them. Her skin showed patterns of bioluminescence that Elena's translator identified as gratitude. What you did today was brave, she said softly. My people wanted to help, but we lacked the power. Thank you for having the courage we could not find. Will your people support this? Elena asked. The Ixari's patterns shifted to show uncertainty mixed with hope. Some will. Perhaps not enough. But you have reminded us that power is not the only measure of civilization. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found in those willing to stand alone. As they left the council chambers, Elena looked back one final time. The crystal walls reflected the starlight, making the entire room glow. It looked beautiful and cold, like the civilizations that gathered there. Beautiful in their advancement, cold in their fear, that humanity would be different. They had to be, because 3 million lives depended on it. The real work was about to begin. The news spread across human space faster than light itself. Within hours, every colony, station, and settlement knew what Ambassador Chen had done. The reaction split humanity down the middle. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before the Solar Assembly on Earth, in the Grand Chamber where humanity's future was decided. 300 representatives from every human world filled the seats. Their faces showed every emotion: pride, fear, anger, hope. You have exceeded your authority, declared Representative Morgan from the Mars delegation. You speak for humanity, but you do not own humanity. This decision should have been voted on by this assembly. Chen nodded. You're absolutely correct. I broke protocol. I made a choice that affects every human being without asking permission. I accept whatever consequences you decide. Consequences? Shouted Representative Kimura from the asteroid colonies. Do you understand what you've cost us? The Vraxians have already suspended 3 major mining contracts. The Keltorians canceled our technology exchanges. We're losing billions of credits every day. From the back of the chamber, Representative Okonkwo from the African Union stood. And how much is a life worth, Representative Kimura? Can you put a price on 3 million souls? Can you calculate the value of doing what's right? The chamber erupted in arguments. Some praised Chun as a hero. Others called him a reckless fool. The debate raged for hours. Elena Vasquez watched from the observation gallery. She had been called back to Earth to testify, though her mission preparations continued on Luna Station. Every delay meant more time the Kiarni spent dying in space. Finally, the speaker called for order. We will vote. The question is simple. Do we uphold Ambassador Chun's offer of sanctuary, or do we withdraw it? The voting took 30 minutes. Elena watched the numbers climb on both sides. Green for yes, red for no. They moved almost equally, neck and neck, neither side pulling ahead. When the final vote registered, the chamber fell silent. The display showed 151 in favor, 148 against. One abstention. Humanity would keep its promise. Barely. The speaker announced the conditions. The Kiarni will settle on Kepler 442b in a designated zone. They will be subject to biological monitoring. Humanity accepts full responsibility for any consequences. Ambassador Chun, you will retain your position, but this is your final warning. Do not exceed your authority again. Chun bowed his head. Thank you. I won't let you down. As the assembly dismissed, Elena met Chun outside the chamber. 3 votes, she said. We nearly lost by 3 votes. But we didn't lose, Chun replied. Now go bring them home. Elena returned to Luna Station, where her fleet waited. The indomitable Will dominated the docking bay, a massive colony ship redesigned for long-range rescue operations. Around it clustered support vessels, medical ships, supply transports, and defense frigates. Her crew numbered over 2,000. Most were volunteers. Scientists who wanted to study the Kiarni symbiote. Medical staff ready to treat unknown conditions. Engineers prepared to repair the last hope, if possible. And security forces, just in case. Lieutenant Commander James Park, her second in command, met her at the airlock. Captain, we've got everyone except the final science team. They're loading the last of the medical supplies now. How's crew morale? Elena asked as they walked through the corridors. Mixed, Park admitted. Some people are excited. Others are terrified. Everyone knows we're making history, one way or another. In the science bay, Dr. Yuki Tanaka supervised the loading of specialized equipment. She looked up as Elena entered. Captain, I hope you know what we're getting into. I know we're saving lives, Elena said. Tanaka shook her head. It's more complicated than that. I've been studying every record we have about the Kiarni. The symbiote isn't just some parasite. It's integrated into their biology at a cellular level. Separating them would kill them. But that same symbiote caused a plague that devastated the Vraxian Empire. Do you think they're dangerous? Elena asked directly. I think we don't know enough, Tanaka replied. And that terrifies me more than a simple yes or no. The fleet departed Luna Station 3 days later. 12 ships in formation, heading into deep space to find the last hope. The journey would take 2 weeks at maximum speed. Elena spent those weeks reviewing everything humanity knew about the Kiarni. It wasn't much. They were herbivorous, averaging 2 meters tall, with bioluminescent skin that changed patterns. They communicated through a combination of sound and light. Their culture valued harmony and balance. They had never fought a war, never colonized aggressively, never sought power beyond their home system. They had simply been unlucky. Their star had entered an unstable phase. They had no choice but to flee. On the 10th day, sensors detected the last hope. Elena stood on the bridge as the massive ship appeared on their screens. It looked worse than the hollows had shown. My God, Park whispered. The last hope stretched 3 kilometers long, but entire sections showed no power. Hull breaches scarred its surface. One of its main engines was completely dark. How it had survived this long was a miracle. "Open a channel," Elena ordered. Static filled the bridge, then a voice came through, weak, uncertain, speaking in halting galactic common. "Unknown ships, this is Last Hope. We have no weapons. We have nothing of value. Please, we have children. If you must destroy us, please give us time to prepare them." Elena's throat tightened. They expected death, even now. "Last Hope, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel Indomitable Will. We are not here to harm you. We are here to take you home." Silence. Then, "Home? We have no home. Our star is dying. The Council has refused us." "The Council refused you," Elena said. "Humanity did not. We offer you sanctuary on our world, Kepler 442b. We've come to escort you there safely." More silence. Elena imagined the chaos on the Last Hope's bridge right now. The disbelief. The hope they were afraid to feel. Finally, a different voice spoke. Older, carrying authority. "I am Elder Shkora, leader of our people." "Human Captain, why would you do this? No one else would help us. Why are you different?" Elena thought about the assembly vote. The threats from the Council. The sanctions already hurting human colonies. She thought about Representative Kimura's anger and Representative Akonko's determination. She thought about the 3-vote margin that almost ended this mission before it began. "Because someone has to," she said simply. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because we believe every life has value. Even ours?" Shkora's voice cracked. "Even with the danger we carry. Especially yours," Elena replied. "Your people have suffered enough. Let us help you." On the view screen, lights began flickering on across the Last Hope. Sections that had been dark for months suddenly glowed. Elena realized what she was seeing. The Kiarni were celebrating. They were activating every working light they had, creating patterns across their ship's hull. Tanaka appeared beside Elena. "Captain, are you seeing this? Those light patterns. It's their language. They're saying, 'Thank you. Thank you.' Over and over. Just thank you." Elena blinked back tears. "Tell them they're welcome. Tell them we're going to get them home." The human fleet surrounded the Last Hope like protective guardians. Together, they turned toward Kepler 442b. The journey would take another 3 weeks. 3 weeks for humanity to prepare for the biggest test of their ideals. 3 weeks before the rest of the galaxy learned whether compassion could be stronger than fear. The first Kiarni stepped onto Kepler 442b's surface and immediately fell to their knees. Elder Shora pressed her hands against the soil, and her skin lit up in patterns of gold and blue. Around her, 3 million refugees emerged from transport ships. Many crying, others simply standing in stunned silence. They had solid ground beneath their feet for the first time in 2 years. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the landing platform. The sight should have filled her with pride. Instead, she felt worry growing in her chest. The easy part was over. Now came the hard part, making this work. The settlement zone stretched across a valley between 2 mountain ranges. Prefabricated buildings dotted the landscape, built by human construction crews over the past 3 weeks. Housing, medical centers, food cultivation domes, everything the Kiarni needed. Or at least, everything humans thought they needed. Dr. Yuki Tanaka approached with her datapad, her expression troubled. "Captain, we have a problem. The Kiarni won't eat our food." "What?" "We grew everything according to their specifications. Vegetables, fruits, fungi. It's not about what we grew. It's about where we grew it." Tanaka pulled up images on her datapad. The Kiarni need specific fungal networks in the soil. Their symbiote requires certain compounds that only come from their native fungi. Our Earth-based agriculture is incompatible. Elena felt a headache forming. So what do? We need to let them establish their own fungal networks. But that means their cultivation will spread into areas we've designated for human farming. There's going to be overlap. Then we adjust our plans, Elena said. We'll redesign the agricultural zones. Humans can adapt. But adaptation proved harder than anyone expected. The Kiarni, traumatized by their rejection from dozens of worlds, remained suspicious and isolated. They built their settlements according to their own designs, using materials and methods that confused human engineers. Their buildings grew as much as they were constructed, incorporating living fungal structures that humans found unsettling. Cultural misunderstandings multiplied daily. Humans waved to greet each other. Kiarni interpreted the gesture as a warning sign. Humans used bright lights for work areas. Kiarni found them painful and aggressive. What humans considered comfortable room temperature made Kiarni lethargic and sick. Lieutenant Park reported increasing tensions. We've had 3 incidents this week. Human workers accidentally damaged Kiarni fungal gardens. A Kiarni child wandered into a human residential area and scared a family. Someone started a rumor that the symbiote is spreading to humans through the air. Elena called a meeting with Elder Shkora and the Kiarni Leadership Council. They met in a specially designed space with adjustable lighting and temperature. Shkora's skin pattern showed deep blue sadness in Kiarni language. Captain Vasquez, perhaps we made a mistake coming here. Your people fear us. They look at us with suspicion. Maybe the council was right. Maybe we should be alone. No, Elena said firmly. This is hard, yes. But we're not giving up. We just need to learn about each other. A younger Kiarni named Shara spoke up, her patterns flickering orange with frustration. How can we learn when your people won't even try to understand our language? We speak with light and sound together. You only hear half of what we say. Elena realized Shara was right. Humans had been relying on translation devices that only converted Kiarni sounds. They missed half the conversation. Then teach us, Elena said. Help us understand. Dr. Tanaka took charge of establishing real communication protocols. She worked closely with Kiarni linguists, learning how their bioluminescent patterns worked with their vocal sounds to create complete meaning. The discoveries were fascinating and disturbing. Captain, you need to see this, Tanaka said one evening, pulling Elena into her lab. I've been studying the symbiote. The Council's fears are based on a plague from 2,000 years ago, right? Well, I found something in the Vraxian historical archives that don't match the official story. Tanaka displayed genetic analyses on her screens. The symbiote doesn't go rogue naturally. It's actually incredibly stable when bonded with Kiarni biology. But look at this signs of artificial modification. Someone tried to weaponize it. The Vraxians, Elena breathed. They experimented on it. And when they failed to control it, the plague happened. The Kiarni weren't the problem. The Vraxian Empire's illegal biological weapons program was. Before Elena could process this information, alarms blared across the settlement. Security channels erupted with panicked voices. Attack! We're under attack. Elena ran to the command center. Screens showed ships descending from orbit on marked vessels firing on both human and Kiarni sectors. Explosions bloomed across the valley. Who are they? Park demanded. IFF signatures are scrambled, but the weapon signatures match Vraxian military hardware, the sensor operator reported. The attack was swift and brutal. One of the unmarked ships dropped biological weapons on the Kiarni agricultural zones, releasing a modified fungal pathogen designed to corrupt and kill the Kiarni symbiote. If it succeeded, every Kiarni on the planet would die in agony. Human defense forces engaged the attackers, but 3 enemy ships broke through toward the densest Kiarni population centers. Elena watched in horror as the weapons deployed. Then something unexpected happened. Shara, the young Kiani who had spoken so passionately about communication, stood in the center of the main settlement. Her skin blazed brilliant white, so bright it hurt to look at. Around her, other Kiarni joined in, their bioluminescence synchronizing. The fungal pathogen spread toward them like a living wave of death. When it touched the first Kiarni, instead of dying, they absorbed it. The symbiote inside their bodies analyzed the artificial plague, broke it down, neutralized it. More than that, the Kiarni began releasing counteragents into the air. Their symbiote, working in harmony with their conscious direction, created antibodies that destroyed the pathogen completely. In the human residential sector, a building collapsed from the attack, trapping a dozen people under rubble. Shara ran toward it without hesitation. Her skin's patterns shifted as she directed her symbiote to extend tendrils from her hands. The fungal growth spread under the debris, not destroying, but supporting, lifting, creating space for the trapped humans to escape. One by one, people emerged from the wreckage. A young girl no more than 6 years old looked up at Shara with wide eyes. "You saved us," she whispered. Shara's patterns showed warm gold. "We are not monsters. We are people. Just people." The attack ended when human fighters destroyed 2 of the unmarked ships and forced the third to retreat. But the damage was done, and not the damage the attackers intended. In the aftermath, human and Kiani worked side by side to repair the destruction. Humans helped rebuild Kiani fungal gardens. Kiani used their symbiote to heal human wounded. The crisis had forced them to see each other not as alien strangers, but as neighbors facing a common threat. Dr. Tanaka compiled her evidence about the ancient plague's true origins. Elena reviewed it carefully, then called an emergency meeting with Earth's government. "If we release this information," Elena said, "the Council will have to acknowledge that the Kiarni are dangerous. The Vraxians weaponized the symbiote. That's what caused the plague." Ambassador Chung appeared on the video link from Earth. But releasing it also means accusing the Vraxian Empire of lying for 2,000 years. Of illegal biological warfare. Of crimes against an entire species. They'll deny it. They might even escalate. What's the alternative? Elena asked. Keep hiding here, hoping the galaxy forgets about us? The attack today proves they won't. Someone sent those ships. Probably Vraxian extremists who want the Kiarni dead. Shara attended the meeting, her translator now working properly with both sound and light. Captain Vasquez, your Dr. Tanaka risked much to find this truth. My people are grateful, but we do not want you to start a war for us. This isn't about starting a war, Elena said. It's about ending one. A war of lies that's been fought against your people for 2 millennia. The galaxy needs to know the truth. Chun was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. Then we show them. We invite the Council to Kepler 442b. We demonstrate that coexistence works. We present the evidence. And we let them decide admit the truth or continue living a lie. The decision was made. Humanity would gamble everything on the truth. Elena looked at Soaera. Are your people ready for this? The whole galaxy will be watching. Shara's patterns showed determination sharp, bright white with streaks of red. We have been running for so long, hiding what we are, apologizing for existing. Perhaps it is time to stand and let them see us truly. Thanks to humanity, we finally have somewhere to stand. The invitation went out to the Galactic Council. Come to Kepler 442b. See the truth. Judge for yourselves. The galaxy's response was swift and furious. And it was coming. 6 months after the terrorist attack, the Galactic Council's inspection force arrived at Kepler 442b. 50 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, led by the massive Vraxian star carrier, Eternal Vengeance. The message was clear. This was not a diplomatic visit. This was a show of force. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Will, watching the Vraxian fleet take up positions around the planet. The human defense fleet looked tiny in comparison. 12 ships against 50. If this turned into a fight, humanity would lose. Ambassador Chun's face appeared on her screen from the orbital station. They're demanding we surrender the Kiarni within 48 hours. The official statement says the Kiarni must be relocated to a council-approved quarantine facility for the safety of the galaxy. Quarantine facility, Elena repeated bitterly. You mean prison? That's exactly what I mean, Chun confirmed. The facility they're proposing is on an isolated asteroid. No natural light, no soil, no ability to cultivate their fungi. The Kiarni would slowly die there. Lieutenant Park checked the tactical display. Captain, I'm reading weapon systems charging on the Vraxian flagship. They're not even pretending this is peaceful. On Earth, the Solar Assembly held emergency sessions. The debate raged fiercer than ever. Representative Morgan's voice echoed through chambers across human space. We cannot fight half the galaxy. We must find a compromise. But what compromise allowed for justice? What middle ground existed between life and death? Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked frantically in her lab, compiling the final evidence. Every genetic analysis, every historical record showing Vraxian manipulation of the Kiarni symbiote, every proof that the ancient plague was not natural but engineered. In the Kiarni settlement, Shara gathered with the other young Kiarni who had been born during the Exodus. They had never known a true home until Kepler 442b. They had never felt safe until humanity protected them. Elder Shkora called a council of her people. 3 million voices needed to be heard. The decision they made would affect not just themselves, but humanity too. We could surrender, one elder suggested, his skin patterns showing deep sorrow. We could go to this facility, spare humanity the cost of protecting us. No. Shara's patterns blazed bright. We tried surrender for years. We begged for mercy from every species that would listen. Only humans showed courage. Only they stood for us. We will not reward that courage by abandoning them now. But Shara, they could be destroyed because of us, another elder argued. Then we stand with them, Shara said firmly. We show the council the truth. We prove we are not the threat they fear. And if they still choose violence, at least we face it on our feet, not on our knees. The Kiarni voted. It was unanimous. They would stand and testify. Ambassador Chun brought the proposal to the Vraxian commander, Admiral Zekthar, aboard the orbital station. The meeting was tense, held in a chamber with heavy security on both sides. You want to hold hearings? Zekthar's scales flared dark red with anger. There is nothing to hear. The Kiarni are dangerous. This has been established fact for 2,000 years. Then let us prove otherwise, Chun said calmly. Give us 3 days. Let Kiarni representatives testify before neutral observers. Let our scientists present their findings. If we cannot demonstrate safe coexistence, we will accept the council's decision. Zekthar laughed, a harsh sound. You have no leverage to make deals, human. We have 50 ships. You have 12. We could take the Kiarni by force. You could, Chun agreed. But then the whole galaxy would see you attack a peaceful colony. They would see you silence evidence before it could be presented. Is that the legacy the Vraxian Empire wants? 2,000 years of maintaining a lie through violence? The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Careful with your accusations, Ambassador. They're not accusations. They're questions. Questions that deserve answers. Give us 3 days. After hours of negotiation, Zekthar agreed, but only because the political cost of refusing had grown too high. News of the standoff had spread across the galaxy. Younger species watched to see what would happen. The Council couldn't be seen as completely tyrannical, not without risking rebellion among its members. The hearing chamber was set up on the orbital station, broadcast live across the entire galaxy. Representatives from neutral species served as observers. The Othmari Protectorate, the Quillan Confederation, even the young Ixari sent delegates. On the first day, Dr. Tanaka presented her evidence. She showed genetic sequences. She displayed historical records that had been buried for centuries. She demonstrated how the Kiarni symbiote was stable and safe when left unmodified. The plague that devastated Raxian space 2,000 years ago was not caused by natural Kiarni biology, Tanaka testified. It was caused by illegal experimentation. Someone tried to weaponize the symbiote. Someone failed. And the Kiarni have been blamed ever since. The Vraxian delegation erupted in fury. They called Tanaka's evidence fabricated, her conclusions biased, her methods questionable. They demanded the hearing be stopped immediately, but the neutral observers insisted it continue. On the second day, Shara stood before the council. She was young, barely considered an adult by Kiarni standards, but she spoke with the voice of her generation. Her skin patterns were synchronized with her words, creating a display of communication that was beautiful and profound. "You fear us because you do not understand us," she said. "You see our symbiote as a weapon. To us, it is part of who we are. It is our connection to life itself. Watch." She held up her hand. At her direction, fungal tendrils grew from her palm, delicate and controlled. She shaped them into patterns, created structures, dissolved them again. Every movement was precise, conscious, safe. We are not mindless carriers of plague. We are not walking biological weapons. We are people who have lived in harmony with our symbiote for 50,000 years. It is only when others tried to use us as weapons that tragedy occurred. A human child from the colony, the same girl Shara had rescued during the attack, came forward. She was small, maybe 7 years old, with brown skin and curious eyes. She took Shara's hand without fear. "Shara is my friend," the girl said simply. "She saved my life. She's not scary. She's nice." The image of the human child holding hands with the Kiarni went viral across the galaxy within minutes. Something about that simple gesture of trust cut through all the political arguments and ancient fears. On the third day, the Ixari ambassador stood to speak. She was young. Her people were weak in council politics, but she carried something that changed everything. "Honored observers," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I must present evidence that my people have kept hidden for too long. We feared the Vraxian Empire. We feared retaliation. But we cannot stay silent anymore." She displayed documents from the Ixari archives records dating back 2,000 years. Trade agreements, scientific collaboration, and most damning of all, contracts between the Vraxian Empire and Kiarni settlements for biological research. The Vraxians did not just study the Kiarni symbiote, the Ixari ambassador said. They purchased Kiarni subjects. They conducted experiments. Our archives show payments made, test results delivered, and warnings from Ixari scientists that the modifications were unstable and dangerous. Admiral Zekthar rose from his seat. "This is outrageous. These documents are forgeries. The Ixari have fabricated evidence too. The documents are authenticated by quantum signatures." The Ixari ambassador interrupted. "They cannot be forged. Your empire knew the modifications were dangerous. Your scientists proceeded anyway. And when the plague spread, you blamed the Kiarni to hide your crimes." The hearing chamber fell silent. Every camera, every broadcast, Every watching species across the galaxy saw the truth laid bare. The Vraxian delegation demanded the evidence be sealed. They threatened economic sanctions against the Ixari. They called for the Ixari ambassador to be arrested for slander, but the evidence was already spreading across the galactic networks. Reporters shared it. Scientists analyzed it. Within hours, billions of people across hundreds of worlds knew the truth. The vote came on the fourth day. The neutral observers had the authority to make a determination. Were the Kiarni safe? Should they be allowed to remain on Kepler 442b? The vote was not unanimous. Some species still feared the unknown. Some sided with the Vraxians out of political loyalty. But the majority voted yes. The Kiarni were not a threat. They should be allowed to stay. But voting yes was not the same as enforcing that decision. Admiral Zekthar refused to accept the outcome. His fleet remained in orbit, weapons still charged. This changes nothing, he broadcast on all channels. The Kiarni are a threat to the Vraxian Empire. We will remove them with or without council approval. Captain Elena Vasquez looked at her fleet. 12 ships. Against 50. The math was impossible. All ships, she ordered, form defensive positions around Kepler 442b. If they want the Kiarni, they'll have to go through us. The human ships moved into position, placing themselves between the planet and the Vraxian fleet. It was a symbolic gesture, a last stand. Everyone knew how it would end. Then something happened that no one expected. 3 ships broke formation from the edge of the system and moved to join the human fleet. They carried Ixari markings. Their commander's message was simple. The Ixari Confederation stands with humanity and the Kiarni people. Then more ships arrived. The Quillan fleet. For 3 days, 2 fleets faced each other in the space above Kepler 442b. The Vraxian Armada on one side, 87 ships from 12 different species on the other. Weapons were charged. Shields were raised. The galaxy held its breath. Captain Elena Vasquez barely slept during those 3 days. She walked the corridors of the Indomitable Will, checking systems, talking to crew members, preparing for a battle she knew would cost countless lives. Every time she looked at the view screen and saw the Vraxian fleet, she wondered if she had led humanity to destruction. On Kepler 442b's surface, human and Kiarni families sheltered together. Children who had been playing in the streets just days ago now huddled in reinforced bunkers. Shara stayed with the human families in her sector, her bioluminescent patterns offering light in the dark spaces, creating patterns that soothed the frightened children. "Why are they so angry at you?" a young boy asked her. Shara's patterns shifted to show sadness mixed with resignation. "Because they made a mistake long ago and blamed us for it. Admitting the truth means admitting they were wrong for 2,000 years. "That's stupid," the boy said. "My dad says everyone makes mistakes. He says being grown up means admitting it and doing better." "Your father is very wise," Shara replied. On Earth, Ambassador Chun received an emergency communication from the Othmari Protectorate. The Othmari had been working behind the scenes, using their reputation as mediators to broker negotiations. "The Vraxian High Council is divided," the Othmari representative explained. "Admiral Zekthar represents the military faction that wants to maintain the old narrative. But there are others in the council who see the evidence and understand that the truth cannot be hidden anymore. They need a way to back down without appearing weak." "What do they want?" Chun asked. "A compromise. Official recognition that historical records were incomplete. Acknowledgement that both Kiarni and Vraxian lives were lost in the ancient plague. A joint research initiative to study the symbiotes safely. And most importantly, protected status for the Kiarni species under galactic law." Chun considered it carefully. "They get to save face by claiming it was just incomplete records rather than deliberate lies. Yes, it is not perfect justice, but it is peace. And it gives the Kiarni what they truly need: safety and recognition. Chun brought the proposal to the Kiarni Leadership Council. Elder Shkora listened carefully, her pattern showing deep thought. "We could demand full acknowledgement," she said. "We could insist they admit to everything. The experiments, the cover-up, all of it." "You could," Chun agreed. "But that might mean war. The Vraxian military faction would rather fight than accept total humiliation." Shara spoke up from where she attended via video link from the surface. "Elder, we did not survive 2 years in space, just to die in a war for pride. We wanted safety. We wanted recognition. We wanted a home. This compromise gives us those things. But it does not give us justice," another elder argued. "No," Shara agreed. "But it gives us a future. And perhaps that is more important." The Kiarni debated for hours. Finally, they voted to accept the compromise. Not because it was perfect, but because it meant their children would grow up safe. The formal negotiations took another week. Representatives from the Othmari, the Ixari, the Quillan, and neutral species worked to draft an agreement that all sides could accept. The final document was complex, filled with diplomatic language designed to let everyone claim some degree of victory. The key points were simple. The Galactic Council officially acknowledged that historical understanding of the ancient plague was incomplete and partially inaccurate. The Kiarni were granted protected species status, with full rights to settlement on Kepler-442b under human administration. A joint scientific initiative would be established to study the Kiarni symbiote, with participation from multiple species to ensure transparency. The Vraxian Empire would provide reparations in the form of funding for Kiarni development and integration. Any species or individual who attacked the Kiarni would face council sanctions, though it was not everything the Kiarni deserved. But it was enough. Admiral Zekthar's fleet withdrew from Kepler-442b without firing a shot. He made no public statement, but his career in the Vraxian military was over. The political faction that supported him lost power in the following months. New voices emerged in the Vraxian government. Younger members who were tired of defending ancient lies. The coalition fleet that had stood with humanity dispersed slowly. Before they left, representatives from each species visited Kepler-442b. They wanted to see for themselves what humanity and the Kiarni had built together. The Quillan ambassador walked through New Haven City, where human and Kiarni architecture blended in unexpected ways. Buildings grew from fungal bases but incorporated human engineering. Streets were designed for both species, with lighting that adjusted for comfort. Gardens mixed earth plants with Kiarni fungi in beautiful, productive ways. "You have done something remarkable here," the Quillan said to Elena. "You have not just given them shelter. You have created something new, a shared culture." Elena looked around at the city. She saw human children playing with Kiarni younglings, the two species learning each other's games. She saw Kiarni elders teaching humans about fungal cultivation, while human engineers showed them advanced construction techniques. She saw a future taking shape. "We didn't do it alone," Elena said. "The Kiarni gave as much as they received. Maybe more." 5 years passed. Kepler-442b became something unique in the galaxy, a true mixed species world. The population grew to 4 million Kiarni and 2 million humans, with more arriving every year. The planet's economy boomed as Kiarni symbiote research led to breakthroughs in medicine, agriculture, and biotechnology. Dr. Yuki Tanaka won the Galactic Science Prize for her work on symbiotic biology. She used the prize money to establish a research institute on Kepler-442b, staffed by scientists from 20 different species. The medical applications alone changed galactic civilization. Treatments derived from Kiani symbiote research cured diseases that had plagued species for millennia. Cancer, degenerative conditions, even aging itself became more manageable. The Kiani, once feared as carriers of plague, became known as healers. Shara, now considered a full adult by Kiani standards, became the first Kiani representative to the Galactic Council. She took her seat in the same chamber where her people had been rejected just years before. Her inauguration speech was broadcast across the galaxy. "We remember those who turned away," she said, her pattern showing not anger but understanding. "We do not blame them. Fear is a powerful force. But we also remember the one species that chose to stay. Humanity showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it." She looked directly at the human delegation, where Elena Vasquez sat in dress uniform beside Ambassador Chun. They asked for nothing in return. They risked everything. They stood between us and annihilation, not because they had to, but because it was right. They taught us that civilization is not measured by technology or power, but by the choice to protect those who cannot protect themselves. On Earth, Dr. Marcus Chun retired from diplomatic service. He spent his final years writing, teaching, and occasionally giving speeches to young diplomats. His most famous quote became carved into monuments across human space. "The true test of civilization is not how we treat the powerful, but how we treat the powerless. Not what we do when it's easy, but what we do when it's hard." Captain Elena Vasquez remained on Kepler 442b, promoted to Planetary Defense Coordinator. She oversaw the expansion of New Haven City and the establishment of 3 more major settlements. Every morning, she walked through the Central Park where Human and Kiani had built a memorial. The memorial was simple, a wall listing the names of everyone who had died during the Kiani Exodus. 300,000 names. 300,000 people who didn't survive long enough to reach safety. The wall was made of a special material developed by Human and Kiani engineers working together. Stone reinforced with fungal networks that would last 10,000 years dotted the base of the memorial. An inscription read, "When everyone turned away, someone chose to stay." Elena often found Shara there, teaching young Kiani about their history, about the 2 years adrift, about the 47 species that said no, about the one species that said yes. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Shara asked Elena. One evening, as twin suns set over the city, Elena looked at the city lights beginning to glow human, electric lights blending with Kiani bioluminescence, creating patterns neither species could make alone. "I think we made the only choice," Elena said. "And I think your children and our children will build something better than either of our species could build alone." Shara's patterns shifted to show warmth and hope. They already are. In the park, Human and Kiani children played together, creating games that mixed both cultures. They didn't see differences. They didn't see alien and human. They just saw friends. Across the galaxy, other species watched Kepler 442b closely. Some still harbored doubts. Others saw opportunity. But everyone recognized that something fundamental had changed. Humanity had proven that compassion was not weakness. That taking a stand for what